Good morning, boys and girls. Today is another exciting and important day because we are going to be getting ready for the test that we've been preparing for all year, which is called NJSLA, depending on when we go back to school. So we've been talking about the test, and the cool thing is that you already know a lot about the stuff that the test will ask you to do. So I'm just going to spend a little time reminding you of things you learned long ago at the start of this year. It's like when we were reading Because of Winn-Dixie and The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, because you'll want to remember all that stuff. Lots of questions on the test will ask you to show off the work you've done all year. Alright, so I've been thinking about what's the first thing that I want to teach you before I can teach you something super key about the test. I think it'll help you to think just for a minute about what it's like when you are packing your backpack when you go home each day. So like when we're in the classroom, when we're packing up, I want you to think about that time. So imagine if a new student came to our class who didn't know all of the routines and the materials we take back and forth between home and school. If I told that student to pack up, they might not know what to put in their backpack. They may just grab their lunchbox if they brought one and maybe their jacket and head out the door. They wouldn't be prepared to get their homework from their mailbox, and they'll likely be confused as they watched all of you getting packed up at the end of the day. It's as though you have a little mental checklist at the end of the day of things you know you need to do before you leave the classroom. So you know to take your homework folder home with you, and to take home, depending if it's during the week, your grammar, word study, spelling notebook. You know to take your, like I said, you know how to go to your mailbox at the end of the day and to grab your lunch bag, or if you brought a hat, gloves, or scarf, to take that from the bin. So you have this list in your mind, and you have habits that help you know exactly what you need each day. Reading on a test is actually very similar to this. Today I want to teach you when you read a story on a test, you read with a list in your mind. You read looking out for things on your list. Who are the characters? What can I learn about them at the start of the story, later on in the story, and also when and where is the story taking place? So these things should sound familiar. These are the story elements. And as you're reading, you should be reading with these things on your list in your head anytime you read a passage. So I know we already did some work with digging for dinos, but this is super important work. So let's do that with this next story. So we're going to look at this excerpt from Ukulele Haley. So do we start reading? Well, actually, before we start reading, I just wanted to post this chart again to remind you of the story elements. So when you're reading a story, you're looking for who the characters are. What do you know about them earlier and later on in the story? And where does the story take place and why does it matter? And of course, the problem and resolution. So we're going to read a passage today from Ukulele Haley. And do we start reading from here and just keep going? Of course not. I need to read all the way from the beginning at the directions and take in what the information I get from the directions. Directions. Read the story, then answer questions 19 to 24. Haley has a talent, just like her great-great-aunt Ruby, who traveled around the world with a band called the Ragtime Rascals. Haley plays the ukulele. So what we can do now is I need to think what kind of text is this? Is it a story? Is it a nonfiction? So if I think about it, this is a story. It's a fiction story. And you can remember that fiction stories have all the things that I had listed on this chart here. They have characters, a setting, the events and setting, the events, and the problem and solution. So if this is a story, I know that I'm going to be reading this story trying to find these things in the text. All right, so, and we already know some things from our list, don't we? Even before we've read, we've started reading the directions, but we already know a few things from just the directions. So we know that this is a story, and one of the characters will be Haley. We know that she has a talent and that she can play the ukulele. And it says that her great great aunt played ukulele in a band. And I wonder if Haley is going to be playing her ukulele somewhere special, or will this have to do with the great aunt? So let me go on, because in a second I'm gonna have you look at the text a little bit more closely. Excerpt from Ukulele Haley by Judy. The day of the talent show, Haley's stomach fluttered like a flock of baby birds. Was this how Ruby felt before a performance with her ragtime rascals? Mom had helped Haley make her costume: black and white saddle shoes, a poodle skirt, blouse, and a scarf tied around her neck. Her hair, as usual, was a wet mop of red curls. She tried to pull it back in a ponytail, but it was coming loose already. Couldn't do anything about that. Wait, I gotta stop, because I gotta remember I can't just wander through this text. I'm reading with the list of important things in my mind. And readers, let me remind you, on these passages, a lot of information comes at you quickly. You need to read with your mind turned on so you don't miss anything. All right, so there's stuff to mark up and notice already, right? So I'm going to use my chart that I was looking at earlier, and I'm going to see if I can focus on one of those things. I definitely can focus on the characters. So I'm going to go back to my text, and let me reread up to paragraph 1. Haley has a talent just like her great Aunt Ruby, who traveled around the country with a band called the Ragtime Rascals. Haley plays the ukulele. Excerpt from Ukulele Haley by Judy. The day of the talent show, Haley's stomach fluttered like a flock of baby birds. Was this how Ruby felt before a performance with her Ragtime Rascals? So we're learning a lot about the character right away. She's feeling a little nervous. Butterflies. She's got butterflies in her stomach. She's got like that butterfly feeling, except she says it's the flock of baby birds in her stomach. It's sort of like jitters. So I'm going to put a C here for character. So do you see how I'm trying to take in and mark every detail and thing that might be important? So I'm going to put a C. So the C tells me I learned some character information. Let's read on, but this time I want you to really pay attention as I read through. And remember, we're trying to learn who our characters are. What can we learn about them? We know that Haley is feeling different at the start. She's feeling nervous, and I'm wondering if she's going to get over this nervousness. Let's be ready to stop if there's another important character, if we learn something new about Haley. Mom had helped Haley make her costume: black and white saddle shoes, a poodle skirt, blouse, and a scarf tied around her neck. Her hair, as usual, was a wild mop of red curls. She tried to pull it back in a ponytail, but it was coming loose already. Couldn't do anything about that. So Haley's mom might be coming into the story. What do you know about the characters now? Here's a tip. The author won't come right out and tell you Haley is this or Haley is that or Haley's mom is this. You need to figure out things from what you see the character doing and saying. So what do you know about Haley, about her mom? So I see that Haley's nervous and she's got wild hair. That makes me wonder if she's wild in lots of ways. And we know things about her mom. We know that her mom made her skirt for her. Remember, when you're reading a fiction story, we need to look for who's in the story, and what we know about them. All right, so I'm going to continue reading. Normally, I would have you read this in turn and talk with a partner, but since we're unable to do that, I'll read through the story for you. So let's pick up in paragraph 3. There had been some rumors that the talent show would have to be canceled due to cutbacks. Cutbacks. So cutbacks means less money. But somehow it had worked out, and now Haley waited backstage, softly strumming her ukulele. Or her uke. She practiced a lot. At the talent show tryouts, Mr. Y had given her a thumbs up and told her she was in. Dad and Mom cheered. I'm going to put a C here because it tells me that she's hardworking because it said that she practiced a lot. "You'll bring the house down," said Dad. "What's that mean?" asked Tilly, anxiously looking at the ceiling. Mom laughed and hugged her. "It means your big sister's going to be a star." Now Haley peeked through the curtain to look at the front of the stage. There were lots of acts. She watched Skeeter pull a rabbit out of a hat, or try to. The rabbit was a stuffed animal, and he dropped it twice before he finished. Being Skeeter, he didn't mind when the audience laughed. He bowed with a big flourish and dropped the rabbit again. This time even Skeeter laughed. So I see I've learned a lot about Haley. I know that she is nervous, and I'm gonna go back here. I know that she plays the ukulele and that she practices a lot. But another thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna put a circle around some of my characters because they might come up later. Ooh, let's try this again. So I have Mr. Y, I had Mom and Dad. I also had Tilly, which I'm thinking is a sibling, even though they didn't say it. All right, and I have this person, Skeeter. So I want to think, well, where's the story taking place? It doesn't really tell me, but it gives me clues. It tells me that I saw that it was backstage. Ooh, they said something about being backstage and curtains. So I'm thinking, I'm going to underline these two things. I'm thinking that these things have to do with the setting. I'm thinking she's at like the gymnasium or at the stage at her school. It doesn't come out and say it, but I can kind of infer that's where it's going to be. All right, let's go to our next page. Olivia was next. She wore a fluffy tutu and pink satin shoes. Haley thought she twirled as gracefully as a real ballerina. Then two fifth-grade girls danced to a popular song. Some fourth graders performed a silly skit. A kindergartner tried to recite a poem, but a kindergartner tried to recite a poem, got scared, and had to be helped off the stage by his teacher. Finally, the MC announced Haley. She walked out to the front of the stage. She stood in front of the mic the way Mr. Y told her to. She looked out into the gym. Oh, I found my setting, so she's in the gym on stage. So we'll put S for setting. All the kids in the school looked back. Her stomach flopped, her knees knocked, her head spun. Why had she ever thought this would be fun? She wanted to crawl back in bed, forget the whole thing, be little Haley the shrimp again. So I'm going to put a P for this whole paragraph because I'm thinking that there's going to be some kind of problem. She's talking about how nervous she is, how her stomach is flopping, her knees are knocking, her head is spinning, and now she's questioning whether she should be doing this. Then the spotlight came on. She took a deep breath, and suddenly all the butterflies flew away. She grinned. She tossed her head, making her curls dance. Bring it on. She was ready. She tucked her uke under her arm and strummed the first chord. 1, 2, 3 o'clock, she sang. 4 o'clock rocked. She played an old rock and roll song from the 50s. She finished by swinging her arms in a big circle like a guitar hero, just the way she practiced. So I also see a lot about this character too, is that even though she was so nervous, like all these things were going on, she wasn't going to give up. She took a deep breath and she was okay. So I'm actually going to put a C here for character because she did it anyway. And the fact that she did it tells a lot about her. And also, this would be where my solution would be. Is even though that she was nervous to go on stage all of a sudden, she did end up doing it and then she was okay. So I hope you see how I'm kind of marking up the text. If you look back at the first page, here's the first page. I marked it up a lot about the character and the setting, and then my second page I was able to mark it up with more setting information, character information, and my problem and solution. The talent show made Haley a celebrity. Well, not a celebrity exactly, but at least famous. Maybe not famous. Make that sort of well known. Kids kept coming up and telling her how cool she was. Can we join your band? They asked. But I don't have a band, she said. Start one, Skeeter advised her. Okay, said Haley. Anyone who wants to be in my band, get a ukulele and I'll teach you to play. All right, readers, all this work will often help you when you get to the test question. For now, continue to read, paying close attention to the story elements in the text that are on your chart. If it helps to highlight or mark the text, sometimes it'll help to highlight or mark the text. However, when you're taking the test, you won't be able to mark it up, but you will be able to highlight. Since you're unable to do that at home, what I want you to do is you're going to go on Google Docs. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. And you're going to do what we did with the story elements. You're going to jot down notes on what you learned from the story elements. So I'll show you that now. All right, so on your document, it'll look like this. The only difference is yours will have a link on the top for the YouTube video. So it says, today you learned when you read a story on a test, you read with a list in mind. You read looking for the things on your list. Who are the characters? What can I learn about them at the start of the story, later in the story, and also when and where is the story taking place. Today I want you to reread Digging for Dinos and complete the map of the story elements. You can find the text in the Reading Assignments folder. Be sure to share it with me with my email. So I'm going to show you how to do this with Ukulele Haley. So I'm going to make a map of the story elements, and we've done this in class before. So I'm going to list what I learned about the character. So it was Haley. We had Mom, we had Dad, and Mr. Y. Those were like the other characters that were really important. But I could always add other people like Tilly, and I believe Olivia was in there. But I would say that these are the top 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, my main ones, because Haley was the main character, and Mom and Dad and Mr. White kind of pushed her to not be afraid. All right, now what did we learn about the character? Well, if we look back in the text where I put C, is I know that Kaylee plays the ukulele, and she's nervous to play the ukulele in front of everyone. So I'm going to say, plays the ukulele. I knew I spelled that wrong. The ukulele. Nervous to play in front of people. Well, let's see, the setting. I could put what I have written on my paper, which is backstage and curtains. So I'm going to say, let's see, somewhere backstage with curtains, and then later on we know that it's in the gym. Gym on stage. If I think about the plot, well, if I go back to my story, it said something about how she had entered a talent show, and she was going to be trying out for this talent show because Mr. Y, she'd be performing a talent show because Mr. Y told her that he gave her a thumbs up. So let me go back to my page. So let's see. First, Haley was nervous to try out for the talent show. Mr. Y gave her a thumbs up that she was going to be in it. 3, Haley got very nervous before she performed. She was okay performing after all. So those are those are the things that happened in the story. Now if we go to our problem, well, that was easy. The problem was that she was really nervous to perform. Haley was very nervous to perform. Her knees were knocking. Her stomach was flopping. Just to name a few. How did she get over that? Well, Haley was able to get over that because she just started to play and the nerves went away. And that's all you have to do for your story map, is just outlining the elements that you were supposed to be on the lookout for. So if you go to your folder, I'm going to go to the folder. Here's the folder. And you go to reading assignments. Oh, sorry. You go to reading assignments. This is your assignment for today, the one I have highlighted here. And then here's the Digging for Dinos text that you can use to look back. But when you click on yours, it'll look like this, just like I had, and you have to make a copy again.